Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are the Stout Dowie in the Bloodpine Woods holding up against the Greenskin ambush, and you can see already we are surrounded and we gotta hold our own here. So if you're looking at my comp, you can always obviously see some ridiculousness already going down. We've got a few Iron Drakes here, and when I say few I mean three, one of which is the Skulder Guard. And that is what this build was built around, making use of Iron Drakes. So for my lord, I decided to bring Thorgrim Grudgebearer. Now Thorgrim is an absolute beast. He's a tank. He's actually decent against the Greenskin lords as well, just because he's got magic damage, which lets him cleave through, say, Wartsag's physical resist. But he's got absolute monstrous melee defense of 62, decent enough weapon strength, 120 armor, 5,400, almost 5,500 HP, so an absolute beast. And he does have a great selection of buffs. He's got the High King buff, which essentially, when any allies or have leadership, it basically grants your allies frenzy when Thorgrim is below 50% HP. This is awesome. If your opponent's trying to snipe Thorgrim out, it means that basically your units are just going to get that much stronger. We also do have the Great Book of Grudges, +9 melee attack and AoE. We've got Foe Seeker, we've got Oath of Vengeance, which is a new ability for Thorgrim, immensely powerful. This is a crazy powerful ability. Minus 27 melee defense might not seem like that much, but it means your Dowie can do that much more damage. It lasts for 44 seconds, and it's got a 60-second cooldown, so it's absolutely ludicrous. It's really, really strong. It's honestly better, I think, than, say, Master of Beguilement that the Vampire counts get on Vlad, for example. So it's really, really potent. And of course, then we have Stand Your Ground, the usual defensive skill. We also do have a Rune Lord over here, or sorry, not Rune Lord, a Runesmith over here. He is coming in with Forge Fire, maybe a little bit of a mistake, kind of wasted. I've only got one unit of Longbeards with Grey Weapons in range, but I forgot to take it off. Rune of Wrath and Ruin, Rune of Negation, and Hammer of Carrick Draz for that debuff. I think it's a pretty good selection of runes there just to keep things alive. So the front line is a mix of 2 units of Longbeards, 2 Longbeards with Great Weapons, so very thin, a single unit of Miners Blasting Charges in the center, and then some Slayers in the back, and I've used the terrain a little bit to cover my rear. 2 units of Bugman's Rangers are providing my counter to enemy shooting. Obviously, the Gobbo shooting mob is common. It's not rare. You will often see a lot of Goblin Orc shooting, just trying to overwhelm you. So Bugman's Rangers can help zone that away. And then we got our powerhouse Flame team. So we got the Skulder Guard here. These guys are a regiment of renowned Iron Drakes, and rather than firing flames, they fire steam. So they've got armor piercing, and actually they do a lot of damage. They can absolutely annihilate armored units. And honestly, Iron Drakes, the vanilla variant, will annihilate squishy units, but they'll also do rather well against armor, just because they have so much damage. Sheer damage on these units will be great, and they're also decent against single targets, which is something I don't think people realize. But definitely, if you watch them, I do believe occasionally you'll see some replays that include Iron Drakes from various YouTubers, and they do surprisingly well against single targets. For my opponent, a very wide build, very cunning. You can see he outnumbers me over 2 to 1, and he's got me surrounded. You can see Nasty Skulkers back here, 2 Nasty Skulkers back there, already closing the gap. 4 units of Goblin, or actually 3 units of Goblin Wolf Rider Archers, and a single unit of Force Goblin Spider Rider Archers, so a lot of wide sort of cavalry skirmish meant to probably chip away at my Slayers and be a nuisance on the flanks. A goon squad in the trees here. Wartsag coming in with a whole plethora of skills. If we look real quick, he's got Effigy of the Git, he's got Wah, he's got Get Back Here, he's got Foot of Gork, and Brain Burst. An interesting selection of spells. Honestly, I would bring Here We Go for the Orcs. +11 melee attacks, honestly more significant, I think, than either of these 2 spells against Dwarves, but interesting. Then Bonewood Staff, which triggers when casting, so perhaps that was my opponent's plan, to cast Brain Burst repeatedly and constantly trigger Bonewood Staff. He also does have the power of the Wah, though no Squiggly Beast, so his Winds of Magic will be more limited than with other Wartsag builds. He also does have 2 Goblin Big Bosses, which, while these guys are not amazing, especially not on their wolves, can give my opponent some potential for harassment and sort of focusing down Thorgrim or the Runesmith and try to snipe them down. Front line, 4 Black Orcs, 3 Goblins meant to just soak up shots, of course, with their silver shields, and then 3 Goblin Archers behind that. And these guys, of course, can provide some slow, sure, withering fire, though they don't have the rusty arrows here, so no armor debuffs. Bowman's Rangers are already trading fire. You can see whittling down those Goblin Wolf Riders. Wolf Rider Archers have terrible HP per model. They won't do very well. My opponent here doesn't respond in time to the Slayers, so they're going to get a few karate kicks in there. They're going to chop down this Goblin Big Boss a little bit, bring him down to size, and you can see he's not having a good day. He's a mob of Slayers. Goblin Big Boss here, I hit him with an Oath of Vengeance. You can see he's having an absolutely atrocious day against the Slayers, but he's pulling back pretty quick. So the periphery is absolutely lit up with a horde of goblins just closing on me. All of a sudden, we're a danger close. We're surrounded from all sides. You can see my opponent casting a Foot of Gork, though it's a vanilla variant. You can see over here, goblins getting roasted by flamethrower fire, and I was too slow on the draw here, so Longbeards, fortunately, was just a normal cast of Foot of Gork, which is saving grace, but definitely not good. Miners with blasting charges are going to throw their projectiles into the goblins. My opponent, though, casting Wah, a huge buff, and it's going to hammer home straight into my front line. On the periphery, you can see the Goblin Wolf Riders here, inspired by it. Nasty Skulkers, my opponent didn't push in immediately, perhaps a little bit of a mistake, but with all those buffs, things are looking rather grim, and you can see I haven't pushed Thorgrim in. Big mistake on my part. I should have used them to soak up some of this charge. But we do get the goblins to rout. You can see the steam guns in the meantime are going to start unloading on these Black Orcs, and are going to start melting through their armor. And you can see actually I'm getting a little bit of lag here, and it's really rather frustrating. Not entirely sure why that is. I've been getting this more and more with replays lately. But either way, you can see the goblins here just running for dear life. Look at them. There's all that smoke rising in their wake. Black Orcs here, though. See how much damage those steam guns are doing. They're just raining death and destruction into them. You can see how much damage are those. You can see it's like 100 damage for every single projectile, and it's piercing. It's hurting multiple orcs, of course. It's doing some great job. Over here, the Iron Drakes get overwhelmed by 4 Goblin Spider Riders, but not doing too amazing. The Iron Drakes, of course, have 125 armor. Not good melee stats, but they just kind of shrug it off. They're just so tanky. Now, Nasty Skulkers do get in my backline. They're going to charge the Bookman's Range. Bookman's Rangers with their decent melee stats, and more importantly, 40 or regen, are going to be able to kind of hold their own a little bit as the other Bookman's Rangers shift around. And you can see the smoke, the little balls of smoke that are coming out from the Skulder Guard, melting the Nasty Skulkers. They're going to nuke their morale, and they are not going to be long for this world. Similarly, over here, Slayers tied down with Nasty Skulkers. A decent fight for the Slayers. My opponent does pop a smoke bomb, but Slayers should be able to take this. And you can see the Nasty Skulkers are routing, but things are definitely looking grim. You can see the Miners here thrown into fray just to buy time for the Iron Drakes to get clear. Here in the pits, the Runesmith, Slayers, Longbeards fighting side by side, trying to hold their own against the Black Orcs, even as the Longbeards are being routed. Thorgrim, though, doing an okay job here with his Longbeards, holding his own, beating down the Goblins. So we've won one flank, lost another pretty decisively, but you can see the Nasty Skulkers here just being pushed off, getting roasted by that fire, with a cleansing flame of the Iron Drakes. They're definitely probably getting some fire in against the Slayers, and you can see these guys are just routing, running for the hills. In the meantime, you can see my opponent does decide to go for a coup de grace. You can see he's gunning for Thorgrim here. Thorgrim is still sitting on 4,500 HP, so he doesn't care too much. He counter charges and whacks that Goblin Big Boss. He's going to be laying the smack down on these clowns. These fools don't stand a chance. Wardsag with his terrible melee defense is really going to struggle here, and he's going to start taking a bit of a beating. Though Thorgrim himself is getting beaten down as well. You can see some units of my opponents are routing on the periphery. Things are going grimly. You can see the Black Orcs here kind of getting hit by an Oath of Vengeance, debuffing them. They were hit by an Oath of Vengeance before, but you can see they're struggling to really get good value here. I'm trying to get my flamethrowers up and running, but the Skulder Guard struggling to reposition a little bit. You can see they're finally sort of inching their way into position, into firing position. Too late though. I'm forced to shift fire, and I'm trying to save Thorgrim here because Thorgrim is so low on HP, so I'm constantly being forced to shift. And this was a big problem in this game. I was constantly being forced to shift my attention between different targets. You can see the balance of power shifting in my opponent's favor here. I ordered my Iron Drakes to ignore the harassment from these Wolf Riders. Unfortunately, I've got these Longbeards all the way out there, these Slayers wasting their time over here. So a big mistake on my part, getting overextended and not paying attention and just letting my line get oversaturated. You can see these Black Orcs fleeing, but Bugman's Rangers in rough shape. You can see the Skulder Guard running out of ammo, though they are definitely slagging Wardsag, and they're destroying the violent big bosses here. But Thorgrim just in such bad shape here. 1,400 HP still, but just not that good. And you can see Wardsag, though, getting pretty badly beaten down. And he's actually going to be forced, the Pig Lord is going to be forced to rout. So bad for my opponent, good for me. I really need that breather. And he's going to be forced to rout. In the meantime, over here, the Longbeards tied down to Black Orcs. This is a losing fight. The Longbeards, especially with that archer support for the, don't stand a chance. Thorgrim being pursued by a big boss, so I ignore him, and I'm running for my pocket of troops over here, where the Slayers, the Runesmith, and the Longbeards are still holding out, as the Steam Guns do try their best to stop them. Over here, my opponent does get the Goblin Big Boss into the Steam Guns of the Skulder Guard, but I don't really care. There's only so much he can do, and we've got the fire roasting him, and roasting his pelt here. His poor dog is not having fun. This wolf really doesn't stand a chance. Thorgrim, of course, with the Rune of Negation down, with all that tankiness, you can see the Black Horse being hit by Rune of Wrath and Ruin. Thorgrim's going to hold his own here. Another Oath of Vengeance going down. I do believe the third or fourth this game, dropping down that Goblin Big Boss's melee defense, forcing him to run away. The one more Goblin Big Boss still holding here. I hit him with a Hammer of Characterized. Runesmith, Thorgrim, all in there. They're being the snot out of him. So you can see at this point, the balance of power decidedly in my opponent's favor, though. Things are looking very grim. These Slayers wasting their time over here. These Longbeards all the way out there. Flamethrower crews lining up. They are not going quietly into this good night, and they are unloading on these Black Orcs. But things are looking very bad. My opponent is able to tie down my Bugman's Rangers here with the Force Goblin Spider Riders. My Bugman's Rangers, these guys are almost out of ammo. Black Orcs coming in from the periphery. Fortunately, we do get a nice little roast on these Black Orcs. You can see that even the Black Orcs, despite their tankiness, are just not Not able to weather that storm. You can see those gouts of flame just melting through them, leaving all these greenskins laying there. Some of them are surprisingly getting up, so I shouldn't be too thrilled, I guess. But either way, the grubby are not having a good time. There's still quite a few goblin archers left, but that ammo isn't going to make too much of a difference here. Thorgrim is running away. I'm trying to keep Thorgrim safe. Runesmith is still very tanky, and I still have some Bugman's Rangers, so I'll be able to mop them up if I'm able to put down these Black Orcs, and you can see the flamethrower fire coming in, trying to melt them down. I really needed to bring these guys down, but they still have 1200 HP, but you can see those gouts of flame coming in, raining death and destruction on these filthy orcs. You can see it roast some of the Bugman's Rangers. A bit of unfortunate friendly fire, but gotta do what you gotta do. And the Black Orcs, though, still tanking. They refuse to rout. They just keep on coming. But over here, Warstag, the Hog Lord, coming in for trying to deliver a coup de grace to Thorgrim. Thorgrim countercharges and smacks Warstag over the noggin with his good old trusty axe. And Warstag hits him in return, but then promptly gets killed. And there he goes. Poor Spleener lying on his side, dying, bled out. In a bad spot. Runesmith comes in, stand your ground, popped. I popped stand your ground right before Warstag hit, which is probably what saved him from taking the full hit of the charge. And now these goblins are routing, and with that, my opponent's army is completely disintegrating. Morale broken on all fronts. And what moments ago was pretty decidedly in my opponent's favor now turns out, and he decides to surrender. So brutal fight right down to the finish. A heavy investment in the Iron Drakes was probably a mistake. Probably would have been better off bringing just 2 of them, trying to widen my line, bring some extra miners in there. Would have done me more good than 3 units of Iron Drakes, but it was fun. Iron Drake, the Skulder Guard did rather well. All these units, all of them did surprisingly well against Lords, did really well against the Black Orcs. Definitely did some good work. Longbeards, of course, doing a good job. You can see that raking good amounts of kills. Slayers did an okay job. Boogman's Range, honestly, everyone in this army did okay, all things considered. The losses were far worse than my opponent's. What probably killed my opponent was the greed. Trying to kill Thorgrim is, in my opinion, a mistake. It cost Warstag, and with that, my opponent's leadership collapsed. Perhaps he would have been able to pick away at me and slowly but surely whittle me down over time. Otherwise, he could have definitely been trying to slowly but surely pick apart my other units. Killing off the Skulder Guard a little sooner would have probably made more of a difference than killing Thorgrim. So it's just something I think worth keeping in mind. But I don't even know. It was definitely a fun match. Just fun to try out the Skulder Guard, fun to try out the Iron Drakes. Units I don't really use all that often, but can be very potent in the right situation. For my opponent's build, a pretty cool composition. I think a little too much invested in the Goblin Wolf Rider Archers. Granted, they can pick away at Slayers, but I think you'd be better off at least dropping one of them and upgrading one of these archers to the Rusty Heirs. My opponent obviously has the DLC because he's got nasty Skulkers, so you could definitely get the Goblin Archers upgraded. And then actually what I'd probably do is I'd probably drop these 3, get one of these guys upgraded to the Rusty Heirs, and have the 2 units I drop here replaced with the Mogreb's Mangy Marauders, because that AP is going to make far more of a difference than 2 units of Goblin Wolf Rider Archers, in my opinion. But yeah, otherwise, good game to my opponent. Had a lot of fun. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you find it entertaining. I'm not sure what's causing the lag spikes in mid-video, and I'm going to have to try to figure out what it is. If there's anything in the background or something lagging things out, it's rather unfortunate, because I didn't have this before, so hopefully I'm able to figure out what it is. Either way, I do hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you have any comments, any criticism, anything like that, be sure to share them down below, and I'll respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.